So let's get into our course outline now and also understand what a typical business analyst would be doing in an IT project. Yeah. Now this course is specifically for IT projects. Okay. Now because business analyst is a broader term and it's used across industries, like a financial business analyst could be there, or it could be a research kind of role, right?
Yeah.
But we're focusing more on an IT project. Right? What is the role of a business analyst in an IT project? Because that's where most of the market is, and most of the students would like to look out for that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if I have to tell the role of a business analyst, the two main job which a business analyst would do are requirement elicitation and analysis and documentation. Now he has to understand the requirements, talking to various stakeholders or using various other methods, right? There's some 8 to 10 requirement elicitation methods, and you can use either one of them to understand the requirements. So once you understand that, you have to analyze that there are no conflicts or they are clearly defined, and then document it in a way in which the technical team as well as the user community or the people who are giving you the requirements are clearly understanding the requirements, right? So these two are the main critical tasks. Now there are different tasks which a business analyst has to do, but typically a business analyst would focus would be on the requirements, understanding the requirements and documenting them, right? Okay. So the next main task would be testing or validation of the requirements. Now once the system is completed, the testing has to be done, right? So that's where the QA/BA kind of role would come in. The QA/BA kind of role would come in, right? So you have to handle the UAT and facilitate the overall process, and that's called as the testing, managing the customers during the UAT phase, right? So these three would be the main tasks. On that, you would also help the project manager when project is in the planning phase. During the project initiation and planning phase, you will have to plan for your requirements. Okay. Now while the project manager could be managing the end-to-end project, he will be focusing only on the requirements and do the planning of the requirement activities. Now this involves estimations and then preparing the schedule for the requirement activities, as well as setting up the baselines and frameworks like scope management, change management, risk management. So all these activities will be involved, right? So we'll cover that when we are talking about requirements planning. Now the other one is managing the communications. Now because a business analyst is the guy who is actually interacting with most of the project team members, it's very critical that you have a good understanding about what are the communication needs of the team and how do I manage it. Now that's where you will learn about what are the communication needs of the project, right? How do you standardize and set up the base framework and ensure that the right kind of people get the right kind of information as part of your as part of the project implementation, right? If you see all these activities, whatever we have looked at, are once the project is started, right? So first you do the planning, then you understand the requirements and then document it, and you will also manage the communication throughout all these phases, and finally you will test the project, right? The system, right? So these are the activities once the project is started. Now, a senior business analyst would generally be involved in identifying what are the projects the organization usually should take up. Now that's where the enterprise analysis comes in, right? Yeah. So you would decide, what are the opportunities or the projects which can be taken up specific for that organization, and prepare a business case for that. So these are the activities involved in enterprise analysis, and it's a complex topic in itself. Usually, senior business analysts get into that. So unless you have spent 10-15 years in a typical business analyst role, you won't be getting into that kind of role. It's more of a consulting kind of role. But yeah, that falls under the business analyst role, right? So for a fresher kind of thing, it's not significant from a job perspective, right? So ignore that, right? So even though I will cover that at the end of the session, My focus would not be on enterprise analysis at the start. So, all right, and whatever I have told you, all these 6 knowledge areas or the tasks which a business analyst has to do are defined by a recommendatory body called as IIBA, International Institute of Business Analysis. Now, this is a organization which would track the business analyst role, identify the best practices, fine-tune the roles and responsibilities of the role, and disseminate the information to the larger group. Okay. Now, they have issued a business analyst book of knowledge, which is more of a guide for which clarifies on each of these knowledge areas, and we would be following that course, right? So whatever is defined in the business analyst book of knowledge, we will cover this in this session, right? So that way we are aligned to the best practices, and most of the tasks which are there defined in the organizations, would be covered. So you can be comfortable at the end of the session saying that, okay, now I can pick up the business analyst role because I have covered all these 6 knowledge areas which are required by a business analyst. Okay. Yeah. So again, as I mentioned earlier, it's for an IT business analyst, specifically for projects in the IT space, right? And the course is aligned to IIBA, right? And before starting into the course, I'll give you a couple of sessions on the IT industry overview. How is a typical IT organization aligned? How is a client's IT department organized? And a typical project team when it is formed. How is it? What is the governance structure for it? What are the various roles? Who fits in where? Right? So all those overview, and also the various software development lifecycle models. Right? So usually it's not a simple way of managing IT projects. Depending on the context, there are a few methods which have evolved, like a waterfall model or a spiral model or a prototyping model, right? So we'll cover that. So that you have a good understanding of the various projects, IT projects, the way they are executed, and how does your role fit into that, right? So this would be for a couple of sessions, and then we will get into the IIBA course outline, which covers all these 6 knowledge areas. Right? So we start off with the planning, elicitation, right? Elicitation, there are some 10 models which you'll have to learn. We'll look at that. Requirements planning, will plan how to identify the various team roles, right? Prepare the schedules and estimates, manage scope, change, and risk. Right? Then during analysis, there are 2 basic frameworks. One is structured analysis, and the second one is object-oriented analysis. And object-oriented analysis is mainly aligned with the unified modeling language. Okay, so we'll again from the current usage point of view, we are no more using structured analysis, because that was used for earlier languages like procedure-oriented languages like the Pascal or Basic, the kind of language which are more process-oriented, right? You will see to an extent, but of late, most of the projects are in object orientations like Java or .NET, or mostly the package implementations. Like in supply chain you'll have this JDA could be a product, or most of it is product implementations. So the way to look at it has changed, right? So you mostly look at it, how is the end product being used, and that's where the object oriented and the UML comes in, right? So you'll capture your requirements using use cases and all. So we'll get into the details. This is one of the critical components of the business analyst role. So we'll cover that. Yeah, and communication again, you'll plan for your communications. You'll identify what are the templates or artifacts, the modes of communication, the frequency, the mode of communication, all that would be covered, right? So I'll give you a brief overview of the testing. Again, you said that you have some experience in testing. Right? Yes, it would be more like a refresher for you. Then I'll tell you, what are the various phases of testing, and then types of testing, right? Yeah. And what is expected out of an analyst in this kind of phase, like when you're conducting the user acceptance testing, right? So while the user would be conducting the UAT, you would have to support it. You have to facilitate it. So what is the process for it? What is the work a business analyst generally does? While SIT would be more of an internal to the IT company, and you will have to actually you might be asked to prepare the test cases, so you can focus on that, right? So while the unit testing would be covered by the developers, a business analyst focus could be on the SIT and the UAT, right? Yeah, we'll cover about the solution assessment and validation and the testing and how do you go about this. And finally, I'll give you an overview about the enterprise analysis. So my understanding of it. To be honest, my experience in this is limited because I've not pursued my career in this way of work, and because I moved into project. So so again, from a job point of view, for a fresher business analyst, you will not even expect questions on this because it's more of a consulting kind of role, IT architecture consulting kind of role. So it's not important for you from a course point, job point of view, right?